today. We hope that at the end of this time together that you will have a greater understanding about our opposition to the Julpit Rock and Concrete Crusher in the Fort Bend area and our reasons for opposition for this. And we will give you an opportunity not only to ask questions, but also be able to give and hopefully address any concerns and questions that you may have. This is a very relaxed, comfortable community meeting this evening. And so please feel free after each presentation by our speakers, feel free to ask any questions, share any questions you may have, and we will be more than happy to address those questions. Now I'm going to ask Courtney to just kind of give a quick overview about the Rosharon Clean Air Group.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Um, we, Rosharon Clean Air is a community grassroots effort that joined when we realized that Julpit was requesting a permit in our area, and we are primarily made up of residents from Huntington Place, Southern Colony, Caldwell Ranch, Sienna Point, Sienna, and Glendale Lakes.
Welcome, Natalie. Natalie Weber with the Houston Public Media has joined our town hall meeting this evening. Natalie, thank you so much for taking the time out to join our meeting this evening. We appreciate your time. Um, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to be respectful of your time and our schedule. So our very first speaker up is going to be our research and policy coordinator. His name is Anthony D'Souza, and he is with Air Alliance Houston. And as I stated, he is our research and policy coordinator, and he is going to talk a little bit about the Jewel Pit Rock and Concrete Crusher, give you a summary about what it is, and just talk a little bit more about details, timeline, and project scope. Anthony, you're up.
Awesome. Thank you, Talisa. I have a quick presentation that just covers everything that Talisa mentioned, so I'm gonna share my screen real quick. Oh, could someone give me share access? S- cool. So yeah, so like Lisa said, I'll be covering a little bit about the permit itself, about rock crushers in general. I'll go into the location, the timeline, and the project scope. Cool. So what Julpit is proposing to do is build a permanent rock and concrete crusher at approximately 8810 FM 521 Road in Rosharon. And what a rock crusher does, it's pretty self-explanatory. They break large rocks into smaller pieces. And so a typical crusher has a primary crusher, which is to break the large rocks into chunks. And then a secondary crusher, which breaks those chunks into even smaller pieces. So this is a very noisy, a very energy intensive, and also a very polluting process just because of the process that it takes to crush these rocks into smaller pieces, produce a lot of noise and pollution. And these are just some of the other components that are part of the crusher. So there's a vibrating feeder, there's screening units, which is this picture that you see here. It sorts the rocks in different sizes. There are conveyor belts, there's diesel generators, and there's heavy duty vehicles to carry the rocks from sort of one place to another. Um, so these pictures just kind of capture that process of what happens at a rock crusher. You have a pile of like larger rocks that these trucks carry, and they load it into this machine, which is kind of the main crusher, which is like it looks like um a central machine with a lot of arms extending. And what that machine does is it crushes it into different sizes, and that's what it looks like after it's crushed. So this is what it looks like from an overhead view, is you have this central machine right here which crushes it. Um, and based on like what size is required, it goes down each of these different arms. So that's basically the sort of a summary of what a rock crusher does. And next I'm gonna present on some of the rock crushers in the Houston area from what we've seen, or some of their primary issues. So this is a rock crusher in Aldine. It's kind of, you can see what it looks like. You have that, that primary machine right here, and you also have these stockpiles of rocks all around. And this is how it looks like in relation to the broader community once it's built. This is another crusher in Sunnyside. Uh, this one is right by freeway. Um, and you can see a lot of them have this very similar structure of this plant in the middle and surrounded by a lot of stockpiles. And this is one in Southwest Houston. This one is by Holmes Road. If I had to guess, I would say Julpit is probably will be most like this one, just based on the shape and based on the size, the square footage of the plant. But again, the very similar structure to all the remaining ones. So these are the overhead view, but they look very different from the street view. And the street view is very, you kind of see a lot of these issues manifest. So the first issue is a lot of cracking issues. So because there's a lot of dust and debris created from the process of rock crushing, when these trucks drive in and out of the facility, the streets around get very polluted by a lot of the dust that gets stuck to the wheels of the trucks, and that even gets onto the sidewalk sometimes, and kind of really messes up the roadway. This is another view of the cracking issues that you see where debris is being uh, tracked outside of the property, which is kind of a permit violation because that shouldn't be happening. These are other screenshots from the Holmes Road, the one in Southwest Houston. You kind of see that sometimes these trucks, they kind of mount the curb, because I don't know if it's like easier, if it's a shortcut, but that kind of damages the curb. It damages the street as well, because of these are like very, very heavy. I'll move this picture out of the way. Very heavy trucks, and so they cause a lot of wear and tear on the surrounding roadways as well. Um, and not only is that causing wear and tear on the roadway, but because of all the dust that's being tracked onto the street, whenever vehicles drive up and down, it kind of causes a lot of that dust to be sort of thrown up into the air, which you can see in these street view images. You see the dust kind of just sitting in the air as the vehicles drive up and down the freeway. It's because there's so much dust just lying on the road and on the sidewalks. You can see most of it is covered up by uh debris and sand and dirt that's been cracked out of these rock crushers. And another issue that's being caused is that when all of this debris exits the facility, it kind of clogs up the uh stormwater drains, which causes it's a big flooding issue as well. So it's not just an air pollution issue, but when all of this dust exits the property, it causes a variety of other issues as well. Um, and in this you can see the sort of the difference between the drainage that's right by the facility and one that's farther away. And you can see the one that's right by the facility is clogged with debris. I think there should be another picture here. Yeah, that one right there. So the one that's farther away is kind of clearer, and the one that's near the facility tends to be very clogged up with a lot of debris. Um, so that's just kind of some of the street view issues that we've seen with these rock crushers in the Harris County area. Next, I'll be covering a bit of the location of Julpit specifically, because we know it's a little bit different because it's in Fort Bend. So Julpit is right on FM 521, and it's surrounded by all of these neighborhoods that were previously mentioned. Um, and it's very, very close to specifically Huntington Place, Southern Colony, Calvert Ranch, and Sienna Point. Those kind of directly border the Rock Crusher, which is this sort of gray rectangle that we marked on this map here. But because this facility is so big, the emissions, won't just affect those surrounding communities. It will very likely travel farther away to Sterling Lake, Sienna Plantation, possibly even Isle Colony, and farther away as well. So that's just the overview of the neighborhoods. This next map will cover a bit of the sensitive land uses around the plant. So the plant is located right there. There's actually another concrete batch plant just further down the street from there. So it's the cumulative impacts is definitely a real issue. But then you also have schools, you have churches, you have daycares, you have uh, other polluting facilities as well. So um, the placement of this plant is not only concerning because of how close it is to homes, but because it's surrounded by other sensitive land uses and also other sources of pollution as well. So the next thing I'll cover is the timeline. So this kind of process started almost 2 years ago now in the end of 2023, which was when they first submitted their application. And that kicked off a public comment period. And because a public meeting was requested, that public comment period went right up until the end of the public meeting in August of 2024. That was the last time there was a public meeting. And after that public meeting is when the TCEQ executive director makes a decision on the permit. And unfortunately, they had made a decision to approve the permit. After they make that decision, however, there is another step, which is a motion to overturn, which is what the community and the county attorney's office decided to do. They submitted a motion to overturn in November of last year. And once that motion to overturn is taken into consideration, it goes to the TCEQ commissioners, which is kind of the very last stage. You have the public meeting, then you have the executive director, and at the very end, it's the TCEQ commissioners, which kind of make a decision on the motion to overturn. And it was great that the TCEQ commissioner decided that the motion to overturn was valid, and they approved it, which sent it back to the reapplication stage, which is basically a sort of beginning of the cycle all over again. So because the permit was successfully overturned by the commissioners, the applicant decided to reapply, which sent them all the way back to the starting. And so where we are right now is in March, they submitted their application, which again kicked off that public comment period. And so in July of this year is where we're at right now. So because of all of the organizing and all of the pushback that was received from the community, this has successfully been delayed almost 2 years now, which is a huge step forward. But we don't want to stop there. We definitely want this permit to be canceled. But yeah, this is just an overview of the timeline. And in terms of the scope of the permit, this is something that was covered before as well, but this is just the details of what the permit will specifically authorize, which is around 200 tons of concrete processing an hour. And they have a maximum operating rate every year, which can vary from around 7 hours a day to 10 hours a day, depending on how many days they operate, which is a significant chunk of the day if you kind of consider which chunk they decide to operate in. It could be during the day, but it also could be during the night. And this tends to be one of the most common violations of concrete crushers is the height of their stockpiles. It really shouldn't be above 45 feet, but what's being found in a lot of Houston and Harris County area crushers is that sometimes they're even 2 to 3 times the size of that stockpile limit. So that's something that's being that a lot of violations are being issued to in Harris County about the size of the stockpiles. And this is just details on what the TCEQ can do about the permit. And I think that's my last slide. Yes. So I will pass it back to Lisa for the next speaker. unless someone has questions.
Yes. Does anyone have any questions specific to Anthony's portion of his presentation? Great. So silence to me means no questions. So, but if you do find you have a question, feel free toward the end. We will have a short Q&A at the end. So you can jot that question down in the chat or on a piece of paper, and we will be sure to address that toward the end. I see Erica's hand is up. Yes, Erica.
I was just wondering, do we have a representative from Fort Bend on the call?
I don't think so. We have reached out and invited several representative from Fort Bend. Not I don't see their attendance here, but I do have some assurance that they will be at the permit hearing next Tuesday on the 29th.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We do have a question in the chat from Mr. Cannon. In the past, what has been done or proven to have TCEQ reject a comment? And then okay, and I believe that's the only question we have in the.
And so the question is, in the past, what has been done or proven to have TCEQ reject a permit? I think I'm gonna have to pass this to one of my colleagues that is in a better position to be able to answer that because by far I don't want to give you any misinformation that's not accurate. And I'm going to ask Reem if you could jump in and answer that question if you have an answer for us.
Sure, Thalisa. Can we table that question until after my presentation because I think it addresses some of what I would like to address as part of answering this question. And I'm hoping we can certainly come back to it if there are, additional clarifications required, but I would have to provide context, which kind of goes into what I was planning on covering.
Okay, that sounds great. Is that okay with you, Mr. Cannon? Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate your patience. Thank you. So next on our agenda, we have Dr. Yang. You is going to talk a little bit about the health risk that are involved with rock and concrete crushers in our neighborhoods.
Thank you, Thalisa. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to start the slideshow. Okay, there we go. So yeah, as Thalisa said, I'm going to talk about the health impact of rock and concrete crusher emissions. And let's see. Excellent. So rock crushing facilities are a potential source of air, water, noise, and a light nuisance, right? So air and water pollution as well as a light nuisance. The generation of crystalline silica, a byproduct of crushing stone, rocks, and concrete, poses a serious threat to those living in close proximity to them. Despite the fact that crystalline silica is not a criteria air pollutant, that means it's not regulated by the US EPA. Inhaling those tiny crystalline silica particles can lead to severe silica-related diseases, including chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, kidney disease, lung cancer, and that makes it a critical public health concern. Another pollutant of concern emitted from rock crushing facilities are what we call particulate matter. And particulate matter can come in different sizes, but one that is most hazardous to health is PM 2.5 because it's 2.5 microns, and this is a very tiny particle that we can't see with the naked eye, right? And what makes this particle even more hazardous is because when inhaled, it can pass through all the barriers, the physiological barriers we have in our respiratory tract to prevent particles like that from ending up in our lungs. It can pass right through all those barriers because of how tiny it is. And when it passes through the barriers, end up in the lungs and eventually in the bloodstream. And this can lead to various health issues. Short-term exposure to particulate matter pollution can cause an increase in hospital admissions for cardiovascular diseases like heart attacks and strokes, can also worsen the severity of asthma attacks, as well as worsen chronic obstructive pulmonary disease if you already have it. Long-term exposure, which would be more of a chronic nature, particularly if you're living in close proximity to such facilities, can cause an increased risk of diabetes, lung cancer, and also impair brain functions. There's almost every system in the human body that PM 2.5 can impact negatively. Other sources of air pollution would include black carbon from the tailpipes of the trucks, because for such facilities, there'll be trucks carrying the load back and forth, to different locations, right? And those tailpipe emissions, particularly if they're idling while they're being loaded, right, would increase pollution in those neighborhoods, right? So both black carbon pollution and nitrogen oxides. In terms of water pollution, wastewater from these rock crushers can contain pollutants like sand and aggregates, and if not properly managed by the facility, this polluted wastewater runoff could end up in residential stormwater drains, could end up in creeks and other waterways. Now, with noise pollution, it's a rock crusher, so it's a loud plant, literally, because the noise associated with crushing rocks and stones, right, it can be very noisy, And not only that, the idling of diesel-powered trucks, like I mentioned earlier, waiting to be loaded, typically in the early hours of the morning, can also constitute a noise, a light, and a traffic nuisance to residential communities around the plant. Other health impacts would be things like increased traffic. A lot of those trucks are heavy diesel trucks, and they can degrade the local streets because they're going back and forth, transporting the material, and also increase air pollution as a result of that. There's also a safety hazard associated with these kinds of facilities because of the increased traffic on residential streets. You could have kids playing around. That would increase the safety hazard if you're having such trucks traverse a local street in the neighborhood. And also, of course, potential property damage with such rock crushing facilities so close to homes, it can affect the value of the homes in that area. And I think with that, I will open it up to any questions. I try to keep it short and sweet. I will just end share now. Oops.
Inge, there is a question.
Sure.
So, and the question is, this particular matter will pollute our water source, for example, our water well?
There is a potential that the wastewater from those facilities can end up, the polluted wastewater runoff can end up in the stormwater drain. Not necessarily your well water, but the stormwater drain, and if you also have waterways around the facility, around your homes, like creeks, it can end up in those creeks as well. So it's a stormwater drain, not your water well. Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that. Did that help address your question, Mr. Cannon?
Yes, it did. Thank you. It's Miss Cannon, by the way.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
But so Courtney has a question. What about Oyster Creek that runs within the property of Julpit?
That's interesting. If it runs within the property of Julpit, there is a potential risk of it being a source of wastewater runoff. So there's that potential, except the facility takes that into account and, does the right thing. If not, there's a potential that if not managed properly, the polluted water can end up in that creek.
So I I need to ask a question. So when they're requesting this permit with the potential of contaminating water, are there some guidelines or some things they have to adhere to in order to protect the the water from getting, into like creeks, neighborhood ponds and things of that nature?
Yes, there are ways they can properly manage their wastewater and dispose it in a manner that without disposing it into creeks, basically, or into stormwater drains. So there's a protocol they're supposed to ensure that they manage their wastewater in such a way that it doesn't end up in those creeks. There are things they can do to prevent that. I hope that answers your question, Talisa.
No, it does. So when they're monitored, is that a part of, and you may not, is that a part of the monitoring process when they monitor to ensure that they are doing that? Or is it how high is that on the food chain? Is that like way at the bottom?
I think for the most part, I would say it's way at the bottom. I don't know if TCQ monitors. I know typically counties and city, they could go out and test. They do test, creeks and waterways and all that to see the level of what do you call it, pollutants or microbes in it, right? But I doubt if TCQ does that.
Okay.
Yeah. Understanding that this is a request for an air permit. Yeah, that's a great question. That's so even though it's an air permit, there's that potential contamination right, of creeks. Can it be considered by TCQ in regard to this permit? I think it's worthy to raise it with TCQ, to ensure because TCQ covers not just water, not just air, they also regulate water. So water, yeah. So it's not just air. There was an earlier question. I think Anthony, damage to the road was not supposed to be as important as other issues last time around. Has that changed? Oh no, I just added it for completion, right? I said other issues, but of course, primarily is our health that comes first. So, of course, air pollution trumps damage to roads.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Yin Yang. We appreciate that. I think there is another question. Hmm. Okay, some of these questions I think might be addressed in our next presentation. If not, certainly some of these questions really are more TCEQ questions in terms of holding them to a certain standard.
Yeah.
What type of monitoring system will they be using? How often will they be monitored? Those are the type of questions really we should reserve those when we actually at the permit hearing next Tuesday on the 29th, because those are things unfortunately are outside of our scope of expertise. And so those are best posed to TCEQ. And if any of my colleagues have a different response, please feel free to jump in.
No, I agree with you. Some of this would definitely, I mean, when you're holding Julpit to safety standards in regards to air quality, that would be ensuring that they're adhering to the clean air rule, right? But it would be something you should raise with TCQ for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. If there are no further questions, again, to be respectful of your time and your schedule, taking time out to attend this, how much we appreciate it. We're going to go into really kind of the meat of this presentation. And this is where we're going to talk the permit opposition process because it can be very complicated, very convoluted, but we have our esteemed environmental justice coordinator is going to break it down into terms that even a 5-year-old can understand. And so I am so honored and thankful that my colleague, Reem Tarek, is going to present the permit opposition process to you now. Thank you, Reem. Take it away.
Excellent. Thanks, Delisa. Good evening, everyone. My name is Reem Tariq, like Delisa mentioned, and I serve as the Environmental Justice Outreach Coordinator at Airlines Houston, and really grateful to be here with you tonight. And thank you all for being here on this Tuesday night. And I'll help you walk through some of what you can do as community members, how you can take action on Julpit permit, and we'll talk about some of the questions that you have, whether it's how you can get the permit denied, and some of the other questions that have come up. But before I do that, I want to provide a quick overview of what I'm going to be talking about. I do want to delve into the TCEQ public comment process. I think that's really important to understand the process if you want to walk away with information on how you can engage in the opposition process. Some of this Anthony touched on, but I will specifically highlight the parts that I do want to emphasize. We'll talk about the status of the Julpit permit, also what to expect at the public meeting. I sincerely hope that all of you that are here tonight are intending on attending the public meeting on the 29th. I also want to cover what TCEQ should do, what we're hoping the outcome will be as we are mobilizing and getting folks riled up to get this permit denied. I do want to particularly highlight what you can do. How are you empowered in this process? I want to talk in relation to that, why public comments really matter. And we'll spend quite a bit of time as part of this presentation on the comment process. I want to talk about how you can deliver an in-person public comment, how you can submit an online comment. In fact, hopefully by the end of the session, you would have submitted an online comment because we will workshop that process. I'll walk you through the entire thing step by step, and hopefully we'll be able to craft a comment by the end of this evening, okay? All right, with that, let's go ahead and delve right into understanding the TCEQ air permit process. Like I mentioned, some of this Anthony touched on, but I do want to drive some points home as I'm talking about how we can engage more in the opposition process. So this particular process, just bear in mind, I've kept the Julpit example kind of front and center in my mind when I was crafting this. I don't want to veer too off course. So this particularly relates to the Julpit permit. So just bear that in mind, okay? So basically, when a company like Julpit wants to build a facility that emits air pollution, they have to apply for a permit through the TCEQ, which is, again, some of this has been mentioned, but I don't like using acronyms, so I try to not do that. And please feel free to use the chat feature. If you don't understand an acronym, just raise that question. And Thalisa, go ahead and flag that for me immediately because I'd like to clarify that. So the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality is the body that permits any facility in the state of Texas. When a facility applies for a permit, that basically kicks off a multi-step process, which is what you're seeing up on the screen, which is kind of like a cascading process. Each phase offers different opportunities for community involvement. It begins with application submission. TCEQ then goes into administrative review. They perform a technical review. Public notice is when you get a lot of ways that you can engage in the process and advocate for clean air. And finally, there is a response period where TCEQ will respond to all the comments and they make a final decision. So just bear in mind the whole public meeting and the comment period is quite predominant for the public notice portion, okay? All right, so first, like I mentioned, there is the administrative review. In this portion of the process, TCEQ basically checks to make sure the application is complete. They try to make sure that, the facilities included any type of information that is required, that Julpit has submitted all the required documentation, the proposed emission limits. If something's missing, it's basically sent back. But once accepted, the application becomes part of the public record. And Genesis, I know you're doing the interpretation. Let me know if I'm going too fast. I tend to speed up. So feel free to let me know if I need to slow down so folks can understand. And I'll just try to do that as well. The next process of this sort of cascading multi-step review process by TCEQ is the technical review. In this portion, TCEQ engineers and scientists will basically evaluate whether the facility's design would comply with the state, federal air quality standards. They look at things like pollution controls, stack heights, distances from sensitive areas. But it's important to know that TCEQ doesn't always consider things like cumulative burden on a neighborhood. So earlier in the presentation, I know Anthony mentioned that there are some additional polluters that are close to Julpit. Well, that's important to know, and I encourage you to bring that up at the public meeting on the 29th, because it should be standard practice for the TCEQ to bear in mind the cumulative burden on a community or a neighborhood, and it's unfortunately up to the public to raise those concerns. I understand that TCEQ should be, the entity that looks out for community concerns, but at this point, the way things stand, I'm just stating how things are. It is important for you as community members to raise those concerns, so I just want to flag that. All right, then comes the public notice period, which is where we are right now with Julpit. In this portion, TCEQ will post a legal notice in the local paper and basically opens the door for public input. This is the point when residents can submit comments, whether they're online comments. They are also open to requesting a public meeting, which is what we have done with the support of our elected officials, or even request a contested case hearing in extreme cases that may also happen during this phase. In this phase, again, community voices can shift the trajectory of the permit. Earlier, I know somebody asked the question about how to get a permit rejected. Well, this is it. And this portion in the process is where it really matters. If enough people raise thoughtful, specific concerns, TCEQ has no option but to respond. And sometimes the permits could get delayed, they could get changed or amended, in the best case scenario, it could even get withdrawn or rejected by the TCEQ. After the notice period closes, TCEQ basically enters the final review phase, which is where they make the decision. So this includes reviewing all public comments and issuing formal responses. If you submitted a comment, whether it's an online comment or comment submitted via mail, or you submitted a comment in person on site at the public meeting, that requires TCEQ to issue a formal response. Based on everything that they've gathered, they basically decide to whether or not approve, modify, or deny the permit. And again, like I mentioned, if there is enough evidence, or if there is an issue that community members do bring up at the public meetings or within their comments, they may refer the case to an administrative law judge for a contested case hearing, which is kind of an environmental trial of sorts. So why does this matter? Why am I mentioning all of this? Because again, I want to drive the point home that public input can and has shifted the outcome of permits like this. So our role in the process is not symbolic, it is strategic. If we make our concerns clear and grounded and community focused, we are in fact increasing the pressure for a better outcome. All right, with that, I do want to talk about the status of the Julpit permit. Where do things stand right now with the permit? And I've kind of alluded to this already as I was covering the entire process. Right now, the Julpit permit is in its public notice period. What does that mean? This means that the application has passed the initial administrative check, and it is currently being reviewed by TCEQ. They're awaiting comments. They're trying to gauge what the public interest is. And a couple of things that I want to point out as part of this is, and I'll keep reiterating this because this point is going to be quite critical for when we submit a public comment. But try to remember this permit number because it comes handy if you don't have to go looking for it. Again, it's up on the screen here. The permit number is 174419. And it's, again, this has been mentioned before, but I want to reiterate because these details are what matter when you submit a comment. So this is for a new permanent concrete crusher. And Anthony did an excellent job of describing the location of the facility and why it's so sensitive. And hopefully you guys have that in mind as well. And it's maybe part of why you are here because it is close to schools and, sensitive land use areas like childcare centers and whatnot. Another thing to note is at this point, over 1,700 public comments have been submitted already. That's to date, which is an incredible start, but let's double that. Let's keep going. Let's keep submitting more comments. We now, at this point, have a public meeting scheduled on Tuesday, July 29th at 7 p.m. It's going to be taking place at Restoration City Life Center. Again, I'm going to keep repeating this because, that's one of those really important points. This, folks, is our moment to make our voices heard. Okay, so let's talk about how to make our voices heard. And no worries on taking pictures of, when the public meeting is and at what location, what time. I will be sharing the slides with Elisa, who will pass it on to everybody that's attended. So don't worry about taking any of this stuff down. All right, I want to also talk about what to expect once you get to the public meeting. Because for some of you, this may be your first time attending a public meeting. And if you have some, anxieties about, I'm not really sure what I can expect, I don't really know when I should be arriving, I want to help clarify all of those questions. So hopefully we can talk about that. And if you do have any questions, we can definitely cover those towards the end of the presentation. So yeah, let's talk about what to expect if you are attending the public meeting on July 29th. I would highly recommend that you plan on getting there about 15 minutes early. When you arrive, expect to sign in and register if you want to speak or submit a written comment. And again, we will be workshopping submission of the online comment portion towards the end. So hopefully by then you would have submitted an online comment. But it would be great if you could also, go up there, up on the mic and submit a comment in person. You can also sign up to receive updates from the TCEQ as you're signing in by joining their mailing list. That's another option that you will have as soon as you get to the sign-in desk. There are going to be interpretation services available. So if you're more comfortable in understanding Spanish as opposed to English, just go ahead and ask for a headset at the check-in if you do need one, and they will provide you with a headset. So this early window basically helps everything flow smoothly once the meeting begins, which is why I encourage you to get there early, just so you can get settled in and see, what the meeting will be like. Also, I want to mention that there are two parts to the meeting itself. There is an informal portion and a more formal portion. Okay, the first 30 minutes or so, and again, I say 30 minutes, but that it may not be 30 minutes. It sometimes varies based on what kind of questions are asked. So the first portion of the meeting is basically more informal. And what I mean by that is it is not recorded. This is your chance to walk up to the TCEQ staff or the facility and ask them questions. This portion is really meant to be more conversational, so expect to have some kind of back and forth. I know one of the attendees of this session asked a question that would be a great question for TCEQ. I would highly recommend you ask them that question during this portion, the Q&A portion, which is not recorded again. And hopefully they'll be able to respond to you and will give you a satisfactory enough answer. And if not, you can come back with a follow-up question to that and really challenge them, as well as the facility itself, on what they're doing to ensure public health and safety. What kind of efforts have they made? You could ask the facility to ensure that the community members are aware of any type of violation that their facility might have, or the health concerns, traffic, whatever you might have on mind, whatever you'd like to raise. This would be your time to do so. And again, like I said, this is meant to be more conversational, so you can expect a response, whether it's from the facility or from TCEQ. Then comes the more formal portion of the meeting, which is the recorded portion. So anyone who's registered to speak will be called up on the microphone. So when you register, they basically create a list of names for all the people that have registered to speak. So they'll call your name out. And at that point, you'll go up to the mic and you'll have about 5 minutes to share your comment. You don't have to take up the entire 5 minutes. If you have a shorter comment, that's totally fine. Typically, comments tend to last about 2 to 3 minutes. But again, that's just a ballpark to give you a sense of, how much time you have and how much you can, think about it as you're crafting your comment, basically. And again, bear in mind what you say during this portion becomes part of the official record. This is recorded portion, so it goes into the official record. And again, this is your opportunity to speak directly into the permitting process and voice your concerns. All right. Then you've got what happens after the public meeting. So after the meeting, TCEQ will review everything that they heard and read. And if you submitted a formal comment, either online or in writing or in person, you'll receive an email from TCEQ with a written response. This is why really submitting a comment matters so much, because TCEQ is legally required to respond to all formal relevant comments before making their final decision. And here are just a few photos of what public meetings look like. So it's just as you can see, a mix of community members. TCEQ staff is going to be on one side of the room up front, and typically the applicant is going to be on the other side. Sometimes elected officials show up, and they will lead the comment process. That's how they kick it off. And, you know, the reason I'm showing these photos is because I realize that these spaces can feel intimidating at first. But again, I want you to remember that you belong there just as much as everybody else, and your presence really does make a difference. All right. I do want to make a few points, a couple of know before you goes, as you're, preparing to attend the public meeting. The first point is you are not required to show ID or, even if you are not comfortable sharing your name as you're submitting a comment, you're not required to do so. You are not required to show ID to speak or to submit a comment. Share only what you're comfortable sharing. And if you are anxious about going alone, what we do encourage is, bring a buddy. And if you're not able to bring a friend for whatever reason, let us know if you are planning on going up to the mic and submitting a comment. An Air Alliance Houston staff will, walk with you, stay with you if that helps you out. Also expect to see security at the meeting, but just know that this is standard policy. It's not tied to any specific event per se, or it's not because of who is in power as far as the current administration goes. It's just standard policy. And also just note that the Air Alliance Houston team will be there to help. We'll be wearing either our buttons or some kind of an identifier that you'll be able to tell we are Air Alliance staff. And feel free to flag us. We'll assist you in submitting your comment. There is going to be a separate table set up for comment submission, or just answer any questions you might have. If you're looking for any clarity on some of the questions that may have been asked during the informal portion of the meeting, or support you in every step of the way. We're there for you guys. So let us know how we can help. All right. I also want to talk briefly about what TCEQ should do. From everything that I've understood about your guys' campaign, what Lisa's shared, I understand that we are urging TCEQ to deny this permit. So that is going to be what you all are going to ask for when you step up to the mic, or as you're thinking about crafting your online comment. You're asking TCEQ to deny the permit. A concrete crusher does not belong in a residential area that is very close to a lot of sensitive land use, locations like schools, homes, even childcare centers, and what have you. That should not be the reality. But at the very minimum, we are asking TCEQ to strengthen the permit, if nothing, allow for stricter pollution controls, require fence line air monitoring, which they do not at this point, and ask for clear accountability for Julpit to be a responsible neighbor. But again, please bear in mind what we are truly asking for is the denial of the permit itself. Because why? Our communities deserve better protection than what's currently being provided. All right, I want to highlight what you can do as part of this process. This is truly how you can engage in this civic process. And now that you've heard of the details, of how things go, what to expect at the meeting, let's really talk about what you actually can do. And to begin with this, I want to say you have more power than you think. Here's how you can start taking action today. The first thing to do is to submit a public comment to TCEQ. Again, I've alluded to this earlier, but I will keep repeating it. You can do this online, and we will hopefully have done this by the end of the session. You can also do this in person, and I'm hoping that you folks will choose to do both, because it certainly doesn't hurt. You could also do it by mail if that's something that you prefer, if you're uncomfortable submitting via a website or would not like to speak in person, you could do this via mail. But your comment becomes part of the legal record. I want to reiterate that as well. And TCEQ is required to respond to it. This is absolutely hands down one of the most direct ways that you can influence the outcome of this permit. The other thing to do is to attend the public meeting. Again, I'm hoping everybody here that's attending is planning to attend on July 29th. Even if you don't speak, just showing up is a powerful message. But having said that, I do again encourage you to speak up, to show the TCEQ, to show them that this community cares, you guys are alert, and you guys are engaged. And there's going to be, hell to pay if they don't listen. And if you do speak, like I said, even better, because it's your voice, it's your story, your perspective, and that cannot be ignored. Another thing to do is to contact your elected officials. They work for you. Call them, email them, call the county commissioner, the city council member, the state representative. Let them know that this permit is putting your health and safety at risk and ask them to speak out or attend the meeting. We will be doing the same. Document what you're seeing or experiencing in case, with this particular facility, if you're seeing, lots of trucks going in and out, dust clouds, or, dust accumulating in a particular area, try to document that. Take pictures of it, especially if you're living near the proposed site. Write down any kind of like dust that you're seeing, bad smells, which shouldn't be the case, but you never know. Again, bad odors, noise. I know this is meant to be a very noisy kind of facility. Any type of visible emissions that you might see, take pictures, take videos, document it if you feel safe doing so. That type of documentation can certainly help because you can report it to TCEQ, and every complaint helps build a case. Anytime a complaint is filed at TCEQ, it triggers TCEQ to conduct an inspection. Without that complaint, they will not conduct an inspection. They have no reason to go to the facility. So I urge you to file those complaints. Again, if you have a basis to do so. If you're seeing something that is out of order, please do that. Not only just for this facility, if it gets approved, the permit, and you start seeing some of these things, this also applies to anything else, any other polluter that might be in your area. And try to stay informed by checking the Air Alliance Houston website. We do post updates. We share talking points in all of our outreach, share about the meeting information so you can stay plugged in without having to chase down any latest information. You can always reach out to us. I will be sharing all of our contact information towards the end of this presentation. Also share this information with your neighbors, families, community groups. A lot of people don't know that this permit is even being considered, and your voice could be the voice that kind of triggers them to engage further. You could help raise awareness and bring others into the fight. So every action counts, whether it's, a 2-minute comment or a quick conversation with a neighbor, it all adds up. And when we show up together, that's when it gets really hard for TCEQ to ignore us. So, use your collective power to protect what matters to you, which is your families, our health, and our neighborhoods. I want to highlight how to submit an environmental complaint to TCEQ. I've got 2 QR codes up on the screen. You can submit a complaint in English with the QR code on the left, and the one on the right takes you to submitting a complaint in Spanish. There's also a phone number listed here up on the screen for the Houston Regional Office. All right. I think I've talked a lot about why public comments matter, but Again, I keep reiterating some of this fact because I don't want you to lose sight of this. It really breaks my heart when folks show up for a public meeting and say they're part of a community group or so, and one member of the community group goes up to the mic and submits a comment, and others think, oh, you know what, our representative has done it, whoever that might be, the person from our group has submitted a comment, I don't need to. I want to challenge that, that framework. No, I think every voice matters. What the other person might have shared may be sort of their concerns, but your concerns may be quite, perhaps, you know, there might be a subtle difference, but that difference matters. So bring that perspective up to the mic and please do submit a comment. Like I said, TCEQ is legally required to review and respond to all relevant comments. So strong, specific comments can really lead to permit changes and even delays and denials. So that really does matter. And again, comments show public engagement. When hundreds or thousands of people speak up, it sends a message that the community is watching and helps build momentum for media coverage. That's when reporters show up, political pressure adds on, and also leads to coalition building. So all of those little things do certainly matter. All right, let's talk about how to deliver an in-person public comment. Some of this I've alluded to already. You sign up when you arrive. You can prepare a statement, kind of pre-written statement that you can read out at the public meeting. The time limit is about 5 minutes, but typically, comments take about 2 to 3 minutes. I would encourage you to focus on local impacts, the fact that, this facility is proximal to home, schools, your concerns about traffic, your concerns about noise, your concerns about pollution, your personal story. Maybe you have kids who have asthma. Bring that up, talk about it, and speak clearly and confidently. You don't have to be an expert to be at the meeting. You just have to be yourself, just be real, and share your comments. Also, I want to mention that if you are, concerned about sharing your name, if that is of concern to you, you don't want to give out your address or any sense of information like that, you are certainly not required to. Here's what I would recommend for that. If you would like to not share your name, but you would like to submit a comment, here's what to do. When you sign up, instead of your name, enter concerned citizen or something along those lines. And for the address, you can enter Air Alliance Houston address if you're comfortable with that, or ask the person that's sitting, organizing at the help desk for TCEQ that you can skip that section entirely. And if they say no, you've got to put an address. Feel free to flag one of the Airlines Houston staff and we'll let you know what alternative address you can put in. So please, if you have any concerns about, sharing sensitive information like that, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Again, I will be sharing my contact information towards the end. If you do have concerns like that and would like to talk through some of that, I am absolutely here for you. All right. Again, some of this I've mentioned already. You do not have to share your name. You may put in concerned citizen, and a person's immigration status does not affect their right to comment. I want to highlight that fact as well. As you're sharing your personal story, you can talk about what you've observed, from this facility, how you are worried about how it might impact your health now that you've heard about, the potential health impacts from Dr. Ubak. And I want you in your comment to urge TCEQ to use clear and enforceable language in their monitoring standards and ask them clearly, tell them, in fact, to deny the permit, that's what you are hoping for them to do. This is just a template of a testimony that you can provide. Again, you certainly do not have to follow this template. This is just to give you an example of what you might be able to say. You could say, my name is, X, Y, and Z. I live approximately so and so miles away from whatever facility, and I'm writing to express my opposition to TCEQ to granting this new permit. So you would say, you live approximately maybe 1 mile away from the Julpit facility, and that you are concerned about it. And feel free to talk about exactly what your concerns are. The more you personalize your comment, the better it is. Okay. All right. With that, I want to go over how you can submit an online comment as well. And for the online comment, I've got a QR code right here up on the screen. When you scan this code using your phone, if you go to your camera app and have your phone directed at the screen at the QR code, a link will pop up. Feel free to go ahead and click on that link. And we'll workshop this. We'll do this step by step towards the end, so you don't have to get started just yet. That will basically take you to this page that you're seeing up on the screen. Okay. That is where you submit an online comment. You're going to go ahead and put in the permit number, which is 174419. And then you can go ahead and share your concerns, as you're submitting your comment, whatever that may be. Maybe it's, primarily about the health of your community or the health of your family. Maybe you're specifically concerned about the traffic or the noise or the environmental impact, whatever it may be. And I've got some examples of what kinds of comments you can submit. We'll work through that together. And comments are also accepted via mail, but if you do want to do that, just plan ahead so you don't miss the window. All right. With that, I've got some examples of some comments here. Concrete crushers release fine particulate matter that can trigger asthma and other respiratory illness. Fort Bend residents deserve clean air. Please deny the permit. That's kind of a similar sentiment for some of these other examples as well. All right, just want to reiterate again, the public meeting is on Tuesday, July 29th at 7 p.m. at Restoration City Life Center at this particular address. And we'll keep sharing that. So, there will be an opportunity to go through that. All right, with that, before I kind of jump into the the workshop portion of this, I want to quickly check in with Felisa. Felisa, are we good on time? How much time do we have? About 5 minutes or so?
Actually, we are a little behind schedule at 7:41.
Okay.
We are slated to wrap up at 8
Okay.
o'clock. I can shave off some time at the end in the closing, and we do have another resident. Donna Thomas is a Fort Bend resident, also a member of Close Parish Co. I have her slated to speak as well.
Okay, all right. I'll quickly wrap it up in that case. Thanks, Felisa.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I want to address that comment. At what point is a permit rejected? Real quick. I hope you guys have walked away with that a little bit, but want to reiterate again, high volume of public comments certainly help when hundreds of thousands of residents submit clear, specific concerns, especially about health, safety, and proximity to homes and schools. It signals that community is engaged and watching closely. Also, requests for a contested case hearing can lead to that evidence of incomplete or misleading information from the applicant. Can also lead to a denial. Political pressure and media attention is another one. So when elected officials speak up or news outlets cover the issue, it really puts extra pressure on TCEQ to take community seriously and not just rubber stamp the permit. And just, patterns of violation, community harm is another one. If the company or industry has a record of violations, accidents, or community complaints, which is why it's so important to file a complaint. If you see something, absolutely report it, because that is what triggers TCEQ to go and conduct an inspection. But I also want to temper you guys' expectations. Rejection is certainly not common. In fact, it is quite rare. But that's not to say that it's not going to happen. Strong, well-organized public opposition can lead to permits being denied, withdrawn, or significantly revised, which is why we're doing what we're doing today. With that, let's go ahead and take maybe the next 3 minutes to um, uh, submit your comment. So I've got the QR code up on the screen, and I'm gonna switch my screens here so I can show you kind of what the process looks like. Feel free to walk through the process with me. But if you'd like to do this later this evening, that's fine too. What you will walk away with in the next 3 minutes is how to do this process. Okay? All right. Like I said, I'm going to be going ahead and sharing this slide deck with Lisa, so she will share that with you, which will include the link to what I'm about to share here. And I'm going to go ahead and drop this in the chat if that is convenient for you folks. That way you can follow along with me. When you go to the chat, the link that I've dropped in the chat, it takes you to the comment page. This is where you can go ahead and put in your permit number. Again, I'm dropping the permit number in the chat as well, so you can kind of follow along with me. When you put that permit number in, you're going to hit next. Okay, that takes you to this page. And this is a one-pager thing. You're basically going to fill out all of this information and you're going to hit submit. I want to just make a couple of points here. There is a privacy policy. You can choose not to accept if you do not want to. I just want to flag one thing for you. I have come across this issue for another permit where I did run into some kind of an error that popped up anytime that I wanted to not accept the privacy policy. Again, this is TCEQ. They're doing what they're doing, unfortunately. So if you do see that error pop up, just know that's why that is. You can also accept the privacy policy and just put in your first name as a concerned citizen or something along those lines. That would be fine as well. If you do not want to give out your mailing address, you are welcome to use Airlines Houston's mailing address. With that, you don't have to put in a prefix. That's optional. First name, you can put in your first name or put in concerned citizen. Last name, again, same thing. Company name, not required. Mailing address, you can put yours in if you're comfortable doing so. Otherwise, you can put in airline's address and your comment. And for the comment, I'm going to go ahead and drop a couple of examples of comments that you might be able to use. Feel free to use some of these if you would like to. If not, you're not required in any way whatsoever to use these. But it just gives you some example of what you can share as a community member. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and keep putting that in. Again, folks, I'm putting this in the chat just as an example. You're welcome to use this, or you are welcome to personalize it if you have specific concerns. Okay. All right. With that, I'm going to see if there's any questions, and we can move on to the next speaker after the questions. Elisa?
Thank you so much, Reem. Great presentation. I know it's a lot of information, but again, keep in mind that we will be sending you this information after the presentation. In addition to that, airlines will remain posed to assist you between now and we actually have the permit hearing. And our staff is always available to address any additional questions or concerns you may have. So without further ado, I do want to introduce to you our next speaker. Her name is Donna Thomas. And Donna wears so many hats, I don't think I'm going to be able to capture them all, but she is a Fort Bend resident. She is also a very vital member of the Closed Parish Coal Coalition and has been working with that coalition for several years. And even prior to that, Donna has taken a very strong stand in our Fort Bend County community against air pollution, water pollution. She is a fighter. And so, without further ado, Donna, please, would you share a little bit of your testimony with us as not only a Fort Bend resident, but also your role a little bit with the coalition?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Donna Thomas. I'm also the founder of Fort Bend County Environmental. We've been established now since 2019. Also been working with a coalition that was established in 2019 as well. And they was considered to be a parish working group at that time. And we've changed hats and got a coalition all together with all the working groups and now call it the Coalition for CPC, Close the Parish Code. And the reason why we're doing that now is because we know that we got pollution going across this county of Fort Bend. We're all being polluted no matter what city, county, area that you live in the state of Texas. And our mission is to try to eliminate some of these pollutions that are in our area, including the WA Parish Code. We have 4 units down there in WA Parish, and that produces coal, ash in the air, in the water, in the land. The same things that happen with the crushed concrete patches. I myself have 2 of those concrete patches right down the street on 2234 at 521 McCord Road. Okay. So we all are facing these concrete patches in our neighborhoods. We've had them here for a long time. They keep changing names. Of course, you know, when they get fined and sued, they change their names. So that's another thing to look out for in the future. And I tell people when they buy their homes to look 50 miles each direction. Find out what the land is. You got open land, find out who purchased that land, because sometimes it's purchased and they don't put the signs up for years. Okay, so check out the real estate around you. That's another way to protect yourself before you move into a neighborhood. Okay, so my mission with my organization is to protect people before, during, and after. And that's what our mission does with Fort Bend County Environmental. We actually show you how to do the same thing that Alliance do, to make comments, how you can do comments online, how you can write comments. We have writing sessions in our coalition so that you can come together to know how to write comments and make sure they're strong enough. Tell your testimony. Like I have shared so many testimonies with the area that I live in, based on all the factories and plants that we have on this road on 2234 and 521 of Fort Bend County, Houston, Fort Bend County. One side you have Houston on the road. On the other side of the road, you got the county. So the county's really, these people put these things in the county. Reason why? Because the county is the ones that got the answer to. If they go to the city they got a lot more to go through the city if the city's involved. So they rather put it in the county because the county has less people they have to go through. That's another thing you have to consider when you buy property. Okay. And another thing too, when you make these comments, you let them know. Like she said earlier, I live next door. I live 2 miles. I live 1 mile. And tell them the reason why you have problems with this. You may have somebody ill in your house. You don't even know why your kids are ill, because a lot of times your kids may be ill based on what's in the air, what's in the water, what's in the land. Our kids go out and they play in the creeks, they play in the water. Our waters are contaminated from the things that go in the air. So you have to protect yourself, protect your kids and your family. And that's the way you make your testimony. You make sure you put that in your testimony. I'm finished. Thank you.
Oh, Donna, as usual. concludes our presentation. We're at 7:52. Again, I do want to be respectful of your time. Do we have any additional questions or anything that we need to clarify for you now at this time? Keep in mind, we will be sending out a copy of this presentation. Air Alliance is in this fight with you. Keep that in mind. Our website, our phone number. Do we have any additional questions? I don't want you to leave and still have questions. So silence means we've done a great job. So thank you. And let me tell you just a little bit very briefly, if you did not miss it at first. My name is Thalisa Laverne, and I am the Climate Justice Manager at Air Alliance. I've been at Air Alliance maybe about a year and a half. And I'm also a Fort Bend resident. So I wear two hats. I am in this fight because this is the mission that Air Alliance is committed to, but I'm also in this fight because I'm a resident. And what affects you also affects me. So I I just wanted to share that and thank you for joining us tonight. And I want to take a moment to just thank the Rosharon Clean Air Group and my colleagues who stand on the front line tirelessly fighting this fight for our health, for our dignity, and our safety, not just for Fort Bend, but for other communities as well. Thank you so much for taking the time out your schedule to support me and Fort Bend in this fight. Your support means everything, and I just want to thank you. But this is what solidarity looks like. This is what it means when people from all walks come together with a common goal and a common bond in order to fight. So your presence is a powerful reminder that we are not alone. And it's just not about opposing Julpit. This is about defending our health, our environment, and the future, not only of Fort Bend, but our children. I'm in this fight to leave a legacy for my grandchildren. I want them to have the freedom to be able to go outside and play basketball, to play baseball, to play hopscotch, whatever they want to do. I want them to have the freedom to be able to do that. So you are not alone in this fight. Um, so I want to thank you for joining us tonight, but we can't stop here. This virtual town hall meeting is just really the tip. What I need and what we have to do for each and every one, you have to submit those public comments. Stay engaged in any upcoming meetings pertaining to Julpit or any industry that is looking to get into our county. Attend the public hearing Tuesday, July the 29th. Please attend that. Talk to your neighbors. Keep the conversation going. And above all, keep organizing. Keep helping us fight the fight, not just for ourselves, but for our communities and for our children. This is how we protect our communities. We cannot look to the White House to do it. Our elected officials are not going to do it. It is going to be collective, our fight, that we do it, and we garner the support of others in this fight. So thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or any one of my colleagues. And we appreciate you and thank you so much. We will be distributing yard signs. The